Why did Amanda abandon her newborn baby? Do not skip this video. Relax your mind, grab your popcorn, and let me tell you an interesting story. Amanda clutched the tiny child to her chest, her body trembling not from the cold, but from the weight of what she was about to do. Her scarf had grown heavy with water, sagging under the storm. Still, she wrapped it tighter around the child, shielding him from the wind as best she could. The child didn't cry, he cooed, softly, innocently, as though unaware of the storm or the war raging inside his mother's mind. She had not given him a name yet. Naming him would make him impossible for Amanda to forget. Naming him would make him real. But she knew he was real. His tiny fingers curled against her collarbone, searching blindly for comfort. The weight of his head on her shoulder felt heavier than anything she had ever known, heavier than shame, heavier than hunger, heavier than loneliness. Amanda was only 17, a child trying to raise a child in a world that had no mercy. She paused under the edge of a crumbling fence, watching the dim lights of St. Teresa's church shimmer through the rain. The rusting gate stood ajar, beckoning her in like open arms. That gate, that moment, would become a wound she would carry for the rest of her life. 3 months earlier, Amanda's world had been very different. She was in her final year of secondary school in Awka, a bright, stubborn girl who loved literature and had dreams of becoming a lawyer one day. Her teachers called her one of the brightest minds in the school. Her father called her too bold for a girl. Her mother just called her Hope. Then came Anthony. He was older, charismatic, with a deep voice and plans for the future. He sold second-hand phones and motor parts in Onitsha and visited the village on weekends. He saw Amanda walking home from church one Sunday and offered her a ride on his motorcycle. At first, she refused, but Anthony did not give up on her. Days passed, weeks passed. Anthony kept on approaching Amanda. He would buy her many gifts every weekend whenever he came back. Anthony told Amanda many things that made her smile, feel comfortable with him, and gradually Amanda fell in love with him. "I love you," he said. "You're not like other girls." She believed him. And so the relationship continued. They always spent time together every weekend, and Amanda never knew she had gotten pregnant. When her belly started to swell, Amanda used her mother's phone to call Anthony and told him with shaking hands. He didn't get angry. He just said to Amanda that he would come back the next day to handle the situation. But he never did. When her parents found out, her father beat her so badly she couldn't walk for a week. Her mother cried for hours and then packed her clothes into a nylon bag. "You have brought shame to this house," she said. "Leave. Go and find the man who did this to you." But she couldn't find Anthony. His number didn't go through. His shop was empty. No one in the city knew where he had gone. Amanda lived under a small shed behind a bakery for 2 months. The owner, an old woman named Neka, took pity and gave her leftover bread in exchange for washing the floor. Her belly grew, and with it, fear. Sometimes she sang to the child in her womb, told him stories of what life could be, but other times she hated him for trapping her in a life she hadn't chosen, for turning her into a cautionary tale. When labor came, it was in the dark corner of an abandoned classroom. No midwife, no cloth, just pain and blood and silence. And then she gave birth to a bouncing baby boy, tiny, quiet, and alive. She stared at him for a long time. His eyes opened almost immediately, dark and curious. Something inside her cracked. She held him for 3 days, not knowing what to do. She had no milk, no home, no plan, just desperation. Every hour, he grew weaker. That's when she remembered the church. Now, standing outside St. Teresa's, she could barely breathe. She kissed him on the forehead, letting her tears fall freely now. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." The wind howled. The rain grew louder as if the sky itself disapproved. She placed him gently on the doorstep, tucking the scarf tighter. Her fingers hovered over his face one last time. God, if you are there, give him a better life. Then she ran with her arms empty, her heart broken, and her future blank. She didn't look back, because if she did, she would never be able to let go. The next morning, the church bell tolled 5 times. Mama Ijeoma had been sweeping the corridor when she heard the faint cry of a baby. At first, she thought it was a cat, but when she stepped outside and saw the scarf move, her breath caught. A baby, abandoned, alone. She picked him up, shivering and crying, and cradled him against her wide chest. She had no husband. Her children were all gone, 2 dead, 1 estranged, but something in her chest shifted that morning. She welcomed him and took him in as her son. "I'll call you Vincent," she whispered. "God is the only one who decides fate." Vincent grew up in the cramped compound behind the church. Mama Ijeoma sold vegetables in the market and cleaned for the parish. They barely made enough to survive. But Vincent had something different in his eyes, a hunger and awareness far beyond his years. He fixed broken radios by age 7. By 10, he was reading old newspapers to anyone who'd listen. Still, poverty did not spare him. Kids mocked his ragged clothes and the mystery of his birth. Church boy, they called him, no papa, no mama. Vincent learned early that pain was the price of survival. Public school was chaos, but Vincent showed brilliance. He won local spelling bees, aced every subject, and devoured every borrowed book he could find. Mama Ijeoma sold her only goat to pay for his secondary school exam fees. One day Vincent asked Mama Ijeoma, "Why do you believe in me?" Mama Ijeoma said, "Because you are my son. God sent you to me when I had no one to share my life with. God dropped you at my feet," she replied. "That kind of thing does not happen for nothing. I believe you, and I want you to know that you have a bright future and a great destiny." At 14, he was tutoring older students. At 16, he earned a scholarship to a federal university. On the day he was to resume school, he packed a single bag, hugged Mama Ijeoma tightly, and whispered, "Mommy, I'll make you proud." At university, Vincent's mind bloomed. He studied computer engineering but taught himself everything, from computer programming to artificial intelligence. A visiting professor from Lagos noticed his brilliance. "You don't belong here," the professor said. "The world needs minds like yours." Vincent worked during the day, coded at night, and drank garri before he slept. He created his first app while still in school, a language learning tool for rural children that won him a National Tech Award. Doors began to open, but with opportunity came the weight of loneliness. Sometimes he often thought about his birth mother. Where was she? Did she ever think of him? During his final year, Mama Ijeoma's health failed. She was diagnosed with blood cancer, aggressive, unforgiving. Vincent rushed home, sold everything he owned, and begged people for help, but the money wasn't enough. In her final days, she held his hand and whispered, "Your life is not mine anymore. Go and become what God created you to be." She died that night, and Vincent buried her with his own hands. Alone again, grief-stricken, he cried heavily that night and questioned God about the reason for bringing him into the world. He had no brother or sister, no uncle or auntie, no father or mother. The only woman who took him as a son and whom he took as a mother was dead. His heart was filled with sorrows. He was lost in the world with a broken heart. Despite what in his life had turned out to be, he never gave up, but instead became more determined than ever. After his graduation, Vincent felt both exhilarated and terrified. The diploma certificate was proof of his resilience, but it wasn't enough to secure a future. Not yet. With no family to support him, no inheritance to fall back on, and little more than his mind and a single backpack, he made up his mind to move to Lagos in search of greener pastures. He arrived in Lagos with only the most basic essentials: a laptop, a few changes of clothes, and the tattered remnants of his childhood. There was no grand plan, no luxurious apartment awaiting him. The city felt like an ocean of possibility, but the waves kept crashing against him. In the early days, Vincent slept in internet cafes, living off the cheapest meals he could afford. Sometimes he ate just biscuits and pure water. His clothes began to wear thin, and his shoes soon started to peel at the soles. Still, he pushed forward, coding through the nights, refining his skills, and pitching his ideas during the day. But the world wasn't kind to him. Every proposal he sent out was met with no reply. The few meetings he managed to secure ended with rejection. He thought about quitting. He thought about returning home, about admitting that he wasn't good enough, that the dream was too big. But even then, a small part of him resisted. His mother's words echoed in his mind: "Your life is not mine anymore. Go and become what God created you to be." Months passed. One hot afternoon, Vincent was sitting at his usual spot in an overcrowded cafe in Yaba. He had spent the last few hours revising a pitch for a project he believed could revolutionize agriculture in Nigeria, an AI-driven platform to help farmers. It wasn't perfect yet, but he believed in it with everything he had. He noticed the man standing by the counter, watching him. Vincent hesitated, unsure of what the man wanted, but then he saw the recognition in his eyes. "You're Vincent Okiki, aren't you?" the man asked, stepping forward. Vincent felt his stomach drop. The name felt heavy. It had been a while since anyone had recognized him for anything other than being an outsider in the world of tech. "Yes, that's me," Vincent replied cautiously. "I saw you at the National Tech Awards," the man continued. "You were the one who won for that AI model for language learning, right?" Vincent nodded. "Yes, that was me, but that was years ago. It hasn't really led to much yet." The man smiled, a knowing smile that had an almost secretive quality to it. I remember thinking, this kid has potential. He's got something different. He extended his hand. "My name is Emeka. I'm an investor." Vincent's heart skipped. Investors were rare. Investors were gods in this space. "I've been watching your progress. You're persistent. You've been knocking on doors for a long time," Emeka continued, taking a seat across from him without waiting for an invitation. "You're not just coding for the sake of it. You're building something. What's next for you?" Vincent stared at him, trying to figure out if this was a cruel joke or if he was finally looking at the break he'd been praying for. "Next, I'm working on a project, something for agriculture, but I don't know if it'll be enough to attract any investors." Emeka leaned forward, his gaze sharp and steady. "I've seen a lot of projects come through this city. Most of them fail because they don't solve real problems. But you're doing something meaningful. Let's talk about how we can make this work." Vincent couldn't believe his ears. "Let's talk." The words were like a lifeline, thrown to him in the middle of the storm. He could feel his heart racing, a mixture of hope and fear. He swallowed hard, trying to steady himself. You really think I have something worth investing in?" Emeka chuckled softly. "I don't think, Vincent, I know. But first, I need to see everything you've got. Your vision, your plan. Let's make it happen." For the first time in months, Vincent allowed himself to breathe. He wasn't sure where this meeting would lead, or if it would lead anywhere at all. But one thing was clear. This was his chance. This was the moment everything had been building toward. Vincent met with Emeka the next day, pouring every ounce of his passion into explaining his vision for the future. It wasn't just a project, it was a dream. And maybe, just maybe, it was a dream that could change everything. When the meeting was over, Emeka gave him a nod of approval. I'll get back to you with the details. But trust me on this, Vincent. We're going to make this work. As Vincent walked out of the building, a sense of clarity washed over him. He didn't know if Emeka's words would turn into reality, but for the first time, he felt like his journey had truly begun. He had taken a leap of faith, and somehow it had landed him exactly where he needed to be. The first business failed, then the second. Vincent borrowed money he couldn't repay. He was evicted, scammed, and threatened. At one point, he considered quitting it all. But in the lowest point of despair, he built a small AI model for agricultural prediction. It was a side project. He never took it seriously until it worked. And the major firm came calling. The company offered seed funding. Vincent used it wisely. In 2 years, his agri-tech platform revolutionized crop prediction across West Africa. He gave free access to farmers, partnered with banks, and expanded into logistics. Awards followed. So did millions in revenue. They called him Vincent Musk of Africa, but the empty chair beside him during interviews always haunted him. Still, his name kept trending constantly. More contracts and partnerships flooded in. He made a lot of money, enough for himself. He built schools in his village, funded scholarships, created a foundation in Mama Ijeoma's name. One evening at the gala in Abuja, a guest said, "You look just like someone I know, a woman in Onitsha who's been searching for her son for years." Vincent froze mid-air. His mind raced so fast he wondered if that could be true. His biological mother looking for him. Amanda never got married. Guilt clung to her like a shadow. She returned to the church every year asking if anyone knew what happened to the baby she left. But no one did. She worked as a seamstress, lived alone, regretted every decision. Then she saw him on TV. Vincent Okiki. The name meant nothing, but the eyes, the smile, her mother's dimples. She recognized the scar on Vincent's face. She had given him the same mark she had on her face before abandoning him at the church. It couldn't be. She wept all night. The next morning, she showed up at Vincent's foundation office. She looked at the portrait of him hanging on the wall, her hands trembling, voice cracking. I think you are my son." The staff were suspicious. Scammers were common, but she left a note. Just one sentence. "I left you at St. Teresa's Church. Rain fell that night." The staff gave Vincent the note. Amanda left. He read it in silence. His world shifted. Quickly, he sent his staff to contact the woman who claimed to be his mother and make arrangements to meet her. The meeting took place in a small, quiet cafe in the heart of Lagos. Vincent arrived early, his nerves betraying him despite his success. The sleek interior felt like a stark contrast to the weight he was about to carry. His fingers drummed nervously on the table as he waited. When Amanda finally walked in, time seemed to slow. The resemblance was undeniable. The same eyes, the same curve of her jaw, the same mark on their face close to the eyes. The woman before him was older, worn by years of regret, but there was no mistaking the connection. The moment she sat down, the air between them thickened, as though the universe had been holding its breath. For a long while, neither of them spoke. Vincent stared at her, his heart pounding in his chest, trying to reconcile the woman in front of him with the phantom of his past. Amanda shifted uneasily in her seat, her hands trembling. "I know you hate me so much for abandoning you. I know you must have questions," she said softly, her voice breaking. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I wouldn't forgive myself either." Vincent's gaze hardened, but he said nothing. He wasn't here to yell, to demand answers. He just needed the truth. She spoke slowly, as though each word was a stone pulled from a deep, painful place. I was young, Vincent. I had no one. I thought I was protecting you by leaving you at the church. I couldn't be the mother you needed, I thought. Maybe someone else would love you better. But I couldn't forget you. I couldn't stop thinking about you. A voice faltered. I never stopped looking for you, hoping, praying that one day I'd find you. I was ashamed. Vincent's eyes never left her face, but his chest felt tight, suffocating under the weight of her confession. He didn't want to hear her excuses, didn't want to know about the pain that had caused her to abandon him. It didn't matter. Nothing she said would undo the years of absence. She finally slid an envelope across the table, her hands shaking. I did a DNA test, Vincent, to be sure you're my son. You've always been my son. Vincent stared at the envelope. His mind screamed at him to open it, to tear through the paper and make it official. But in that moment, it felt like a cruel joke. A paper that confirmed what? That the woman who abandoned him was now sitting before him, expecting redemption. Vincent collected the paper and rushed to a nearby clinic to conduct his own DNA test. After some hours of waiting, the result was out. He took a deep breath, his fingers moving to the edge of the envelope. As he opened it, the words felt cold, clinical. The results confirmed a 99.9% probability of biological relationship. It was the truth. But what did it matter now? Amanda's eyes filled with tears, but Vincent couldn't find it in him to offer comfort. He'd lived most of his life without her, without the woman who was supposed to be his mother. And yet here she was, too late, apologizing for a mistake that could never be erased. What did this truth mean to him? What could it mean when years of anger, loss, and betrayal had already written his story? His voice was barely a whisper as he stood up to leave. I don't know what you want from me. I can't fix this. Vincent turned, the weight of a lifetime of unanswered questions pulling at his chest. Amanda watched him go, her heart breaking. It was too late, but she had tried. The reunion was over. The truth was revealed, but the questions lingered in the air, unanswered. What was left to build after so many years of absence? And in the distance, the rain began to fall again. Many days passed, weeks passed, months passed, but Vincent's mind was troubled after knowing the truth about his biological mother. One day, he invited her to dinner. "Why did you leave me?" he asked, voice calm but sharp. "I thought I was saving you," Amanda replied. Vincent shouted, anger burning in his throat. "You left me to be nothing." They sat in silence for some minutes. Then Vincent asked again, "Do you want to be in my life now?" Amanda raised her head and started crying. "All I wanted to know is that you're alive. I have made a lifetime mistake and I will live with it the rest of my life. My life is fulfilled. Now I know you are alive." Vincent's heart was heavy, unsure of what to say, think, or feel. He was caught in a mix of anger and mercy. That moment was the most confused moment of his life. He felt more lost and conflicted than he had ever felt growing up without his mother. "I don't know how to forgive you," he said, "but I want to try." 6 months later, Vincent stood on a third stage. He told his story, not of tech, but of abandonment and redemption. "I was left in the rain, but sometimes the rain returns not to destroy, but to water the seed that survived." He gestured toward the front row. Amanda sat there weeping and smiling, knowing that she made a mistake that was supposed to be a lifetime curse. But at last, she got a redemption from her son, whom she abandoned years ago, but now united with him again. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on the notification for more interesting stories like this. I love y'all.